Okay, this is a 2017 Honda Rancher, and here I'm installing the factory Honda winch. I'd show you a couple things here. So this bracket right here is what comes with it. The fairlead mounts on that, and your winch mounts on that. And you can see it has the fasteners on the bottom side for the winch. You temporarily put these bolts in. These will come off here in a minute, and then your bumper goes in here, and then you put the bolts back in. Back behind here, there's I don't know if you can see it very well. Anyway, there's kind of some U-clamp brackets that clamp onto the frame, and that's really what secures this whole assembly. Wiring wise, so really this is pretty easy. The hardest part is just disassembling the front of the quad. It's not that big a deal, but this is your accessory connector that there'll be a dummy connector here that'll come with the quad, and you have to buy the sub harness. And essentially all it is, well, okay, so you put your switch on, you route the wire down here, and you hook these terminals into this your winch harness, and then you buy this sub harness here, and that connects to your winch harness here. And essentially all that does is that provides ignition power for your winch control, and essentially you just kind of have to bundle the wires. This is kind of how they show it in the instructions. One thing in the instructions as I was reading them until I got it apart, was where do you put the contactor assembly. So here's your coolant tank and radiator, your left shock. So on your frame rail or your frame assembly, this is where the contactor goes. So all your cables will tie into there. You'll have two running back to the battery and two that run to the winch, and then you hook your control side up into your winch or your winch harness, and that's what ties up here to your switch and your accessory sub harness. So pretty simple. Right now all I've really got left to do is to hook up the main cables to the winch, the contactor, and then back to the battery. Like I said, the hardest part about this whole thing that I've run into is just disassembling all the plastic. That's probably the worst of the whole thing, honestly. The winch was a little tight getting into the bracket. Once the bracket was on, I had to kind of pull the bracket out slightly, just a little bit, and but yeah, the rest of it was so far has been real straightforward, not a problem. But I haven't seen any videos on YouTube that really show this, and I'm sorry, I probably should have done a complete video of it, but I always kind of think of these things after the fact. But I thought I would capture a little bit here while everything's disassembled, so that you can kind of see it and get a sense for what you have to do. Anyway, I'll try to make some more segments here as I go, to kind of show the reassembly part. Okay? Okay. So I've got the contactor, I've got the cables routed. So you've got your blue and yellow ones route around over here, yellow, blue, and then they just kind of tuck under this plastic thing and I just put back on. And then the red and black, I had to put the red one facing back. The instructions showed it facing front, but if you do that and it loops around, there's not enough length to connect it up where you need to connect it. So I routed it back and got them both coming up here, and then they route here. This is the spark plug wire, and then they come on back, and the red one ties into your starter contact right here, And then the black one just kind of comes down and around, and it goes out on the right hand side. So this is your peg for your seat. So there's a kind of an area where some wires and stuff go down, and then I'll show you where the ground connects to. If I don't trip. Okay, so on the passenger side, right under the rear wheel well, you'll see some green ground wires, and you just connect your winch wires, this one right here, connect it there. So that's where your ground goes. Okay, that's just a summary. We got everything installed. There's the winch from the driver's side. You can see the cables. The blue one's kind of buried back in there. They run along there. Your switch contactors right back in there. And then you, of course, I showed you earlier, you route the cables back to the battery, and then on the other side of the frame is where your ground goes. There's that accessory harness, sub harness that you buy. All that really does is that gets you a clean way to get ignition power, so you don't have to splice into wiring and whatnot. You just plug into that accessory plug. So it's kind of nice because that way you don't have to try to find an ignition circuit and hack into the wiring. Your switch goes up here. I was a little worried that I wouldn't have a good place to put my Garmin mount, but turns out it worked out fine. So the switch is there. There's what it looks like from the front. The only problem I had was when in putting this bumper back on. You see, there's two studs on the bracket that come with the winch, and they go through this piece here is part of the bumper. And I was having a hard time. These, when I tightened them down, I wasn't getting enough threads through. They're just barely through now. And what happened was this fair lead is actually adjustable. It looks like maybe I need to adjust it a little more. It looks crooked. Anyway, I had tightened it down earlier, and it was hitting on this. And so when I was trying to tighten these up, it wasn't pulling everything tight together. So I loosened the fair lead up, and then that all went back together fine. And I'll have to look at that. Looks like it might be a little crooked, but we can fix that. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I'll tell you what, the hardest part of the whole job is this stupid plastic piece. This is the most ridiculous thing I've seen. I love Hondas, and I mean, most of the time I'm pretty impressed with Honda's design, but that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Trying to get those all lined up, and what it is what holds this piece on is there's in fact, I don't even know if that one's on there. There's these little tangs that stick out, and they go into grommets. There's three of them. There's one right here. There's one like right here, and one back here, and then there's some slots down there, and there on each side, and then there's a kind of a grommet thing up here, and you have to kind of work it around. But getting this one, and especially the bottom one's not too bad on this side, because you can reach in here and kind of manipulate it. But it's just, I don't know, we spent what, 15 minutes
probably more
trying to get that stupid thing on. One little tip I'll give you is, and I really didn't like doing this, but it helped a ton. If you squirt just a little WD-40 on those grommets before you try to put it in, it helps it kind of, you can kind of fudge on being perfectly lined up, and it'll slide in and work. So anyway, that's it. Sorry for rambling on, but like I said, I have not seen anybody really post a factory winch install on one of these Hondas, so I wanted to do that. Here's the other side. This is where you switch it You can't get the light up there more. This is where you switch it from free to engaged. So yeah, it's a pretty clean install. All right, thanks.